everyone, this is Bushra Khan. Welcome to SAMAA podcast. Today we have a very exclusive, highly esteemed, respectable personality with us. A top-notch American businessman representing Pakistan as a true patriot for last 37 years in America. Yes, I'm talking about, and you heard it right, Mr. Tanveer Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum.
Ji, Sam.
Welcome to SAMAA podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and also thank you for taking out your precious time as well. So, sir, when you talk about you as a true patriot, also a Pakistani American businessman in US, what would you like to say about your great achievements in US?
My biggest achievement is, how do we really go and, start representing Pakistan over there at the highest level? Unfortunately, some of our expats, when they go over there, they truly forget their traditional values. They truly forget their core values, and then they just start mixing it up. This is probably the downfall of many Pakistani expats over there. But if you are really truly rooted to your core values, your parents have the way they have brought you up, the way your teachers have brought you up, that sets your pace. And I think this is probably one of the things that stayed with me till now, and I hope to have this till the rest of my life.
That's great, and this is something which actually reflects on your face, and you're always representing yourself whenever you are in US as an expat. So when we talk about all those Pakistani overseas who are living in US, so what would you say about the expat community living in US, that how can they act as a mediator or a bridge to bring the two countries, Pakistan and US, together on the same page for mutual benefit?
So there are three different multiple factors here. The first one is, unfortunately, our community is so divided.
Right.
They still see some of those expats over there who are very well-to-do. Their ego comes in. Some of those who are not doing so well, they feel pity on them and all that. So I think this should not be the case over there. We should all be treated as equal humans. What I see is, I always tell everybody that, yes, I was born in Pakistan, and Pakistan has given me the identity. But on the other hand, I was kind of raised in US, and US gave me the success. So my love, my passion is for both countries, and I can proudly say that both countries are my home countries. And if we have this demeanor, if we have this attitude, definitely we can do wonders, not only to help America, but also to help Pakistan. So the whole idea behind this is we got to make sure that we talk about both countries. And unfortunately, one of the other reasons that I've seen over there is where majority of the people go to those politicians, they either talk about Pakistan or they talk about the America.
One-sided.
It's a one-sided thing.
Yes, it shouldn't be anymore.
It should not be
anymore. Things have to be changed.
Right. So if you really look at it, if you start thinking about it, you want to go with the longer term, you want to help, you got to talk about both countries. This is a fact. Why do you want to hide a fact? That's what my belief is.
Absolutely true and well said. I would rather say you're acting as a catalyst to give a kickstart to all other expat community in US to act as a mediator and start representing themselves, even not for Pakistan, but also for America, who gave them space, and together do something for a positive collaboration in future for Pakistan and US.
And absolutely. If you really look at, like I said earlier, US is what has given us a success. Pakistan is our identity.
Indeed.
Why do we forget US? You want to be a true patriotic, these are two countries. I was barely 19 when I left Pakistan. Yes,
Wonderful.
My heart, my soul is here. However, I was brought up there. Everything that I have today, and the reason I'm sitting in front of you is because of US. How can I forget US?
Yes.
So these are the two things that we really need to look at it. We need to motivate others where more and more expats can join me. More and more expats can start talking to the congressmen and senators. This is the way we can truly bring a revolution to Pakistan as well as to United States.
Perfectly, amazingly said as being stated by you. I would like to also ask you, before I ask another question regarding the US state policy, did you ever face any challenges? Obviously, you would have. There are always ups and downs. So being a Pakistani American businessman in US, did you ever face any challenges?
Life is a challenge itself. You start facing challenges on a daily basis. But it's an old saying that, people start dreaming about a lot of things, but they don't really act. So what I do is, yes, instead of dreaming, I wake up and start chasing them. It's a different perception. It's a different different mentality, different mindset that you have to have if you want to be successful. It's easy to do these things, but believe me, getting these things done is not easy. You got to really face those challenges. And what I say is, you know what,
And then
my
the-
biggest challenge is
yeah.
myself. How do I really explore myself?
Right.
You know, whatever I have done yesterday, I want to do it something better today. So that is the biggest challenge for me. If you keep that in mind, definitely you continue to grow, you continue to evolve yourself, and then no one can stop your growth.
And an exclusive formula that leads you to success.
Correct.
So how the expat community brings the two countries, Pakistan and US, together for mutual benefit?
Pakistani Americans consider both US and Pakistan as a home. Pakistan has given us the identity, US has given us a success, which is the story of all expatriates, including many notable Americans like current Vice President Kamala Harris. Naturally, it is a lifelong endeavor of all Pakistani expats to give our best to Pakistan and USA. More importantly, it is our passion to contribute towards creating positivity, trust between our both homelands, which will benefit both countries.
So when we talk about the relationship of US political process and state policy, especially in the backdrop of the recent resolution being passed in US Congress about Pakistan's domestic politics, what would you say about it?
So US is a very mature democracy with a well-established role of institutions, all of which are aligned in the state interest. Congress represents public aspirations to which policy making is very sensitive, but only if Congress legislates over an issue and makes it into a law. However, we should not forget here all Congress members can introduce legislations which they feel is a desire of their electorate, and this is not a particular to Pakistan only. And I believe this is where majority of the Pakistani people take it very wrong. And I like to mention here is that U.S. state policy towards Pakistan is completely different from debates at the Capitol Hill or the media. So we should just take that a little bit differently rather than just taking those words and then start exploding those. To give an example, there are three statements which recently came out after, I believe, 25 years demonstrating U.S. policy. First one is the condemnation of 9th May incident and rejection of violent political ideologies, backing Pakistan's sovereignty over its territory and military actions to defeat terrorism. This is very, very important for Pakistan. And then U.S. does not see Pakistan from the lens of India, which has been the case for many, many years. Now, these three things, I believe, is the outcome of my interaction with the Vice President Kamala Harris, in which I asked her to address the issue of misperceptions about Pakistan, especially which are perpetrated by the Indian lobby. Now, it is very disturbing for me, especially that Pakistan is not perceived well in the United States, and I'm doing whatever I can to make sure that this perception is changed, and this is the reason when I met with Kamala Harris, I brought these issues to her, and then she started taking those actions now. And the way I see is that U.S. and Pakistan have a long, long history together, which has had their ups and downs. It is a paradox that both countries have done so much for each other, and yet there is more of perception and mistrust. And being a Pakistani expat, it is my fiducial duty that how do I really go and then start basically forecasting Pakistan at the highest level, as well as building the soft image of Pakistan.
So now when I see the whole crux of this conversation you had with Miss Kamala Harris, it's wonderful that you yourself, being a true patriot, representing Pakistan, being an expat, took a stance, stood up, and tried your level best in contributing towards the positive collaboration when we talk about the relationship between Pakistan and US. So now here my question goes, that how does US policy elites see Pakistan and their perception about Pakistan and India?
Well, it's a good point that you brought up. Unfortunately, majority of our expats don't realize that it is very, very important. How do we really represent ourselves? It requires a lot of courage. Unfortunately, our expats are there just to support the congressmen and senators, and they just love to take pictures. But unfortunately, when it comes to representing Pakistan, they really don't represent. But on the other hand, with my experience for last 2 decades, in my mind, U.S. continues to see Pakistan from a narrow lens of counterterrorism and security. My feeling is that Pakistan has always been blamed and not heard, rather than other voices shape up the opinion about Pakistan. And I think this is where our experts can make a huge difference by raising their voice, raising the points how Pakistan has been misrepresented, how Pakistan has been misperceived, especially when it comes to the Indian lobby in USA.
You are actually right. You see that particular narrow lens from which Pakistan has been seen for last 2 decades and many, has to be given a broader view from now onwards. Now, when you're acting as a mediator and giving your perspective, even having a serious conversation on behalf of Pakistan to bring those two countries together, I see and I believe that this notion has to be eliminated when we talk about Pakistan with that narrow lens. Now the vision has to be changed. It is a digitalized era. People are moving far and far with developments and changes, and now there's a time to bring reforms for Pakistan and US. So now what would you say about that Indian lobbying, which is influencing US policy towards Pakistan?
Well, I think this is a great question, Bushra, that you asked me. Indian lobby has been advocating themselves for last almost 5-6 decades. For instance, even the USIP Senior Study Group on Afghanistan advocates revival of counterterrorism cooperation between US and Pakistan. And Pakistan to stem the rise of terrorist groups residing in Afghanistan. So now this is Bushra, very, very important for all of our viewers to see and realize how important this is. Because it also says in that study that Pakistan should prevent a terrorist attack on India, which is presumptive and even discouraging for a country that continues to bleed due to the terror attacks on Pakistani soil. This is what I spoke to Vice President Kamala Harris. My concern that is that Indian campaign of state-sponsored extrajudicial killing on British, Canadian, and American, as well as on Pakistani soil, is ignored by media, although U.S. government has done its part. So it gives me a reason to believe that it is an issue of perception, not a U.S. policy. So this is very, very critical for all of us to understand that U.S. is siding on Pakistan, but unfortunately the way Indian is lobbying against Pakistan, that gives a little wrong perception to the Pakistan community.
So when we talk about political lobbying by Pakistani expat community, why it is not effective?
So Bushra, I'm glad that you asked this question. There are multiple factors in this one. Majority of these, our Pakistani expats, like I said earlier, they are not educated how the U.S. policy works, how
Right.
U.S. policymakers perceive Pakistan. They don't even understand the perception U.S. has about Pakistan. They look at it either the U.S. is against Pakistan or U.S. is in the favor of Pakistan. And like I said earlier in my couple of my answers there, U.S. see Pakistan completely different than how do we perceive in Pakistan.
Right.
And this statement, especially coming out of U.S. recently, states a lot. It was premature for everybody to go out and start talking about it. And I think they were completely afraid of many things that, that they will be discouraged when they talk about Pakistani issues. They want to live over there. And when some of those individuals, when they talk about Pakistani issues, they don't even have a diplomacy in it. And I can just relate to a few of those incidents recently happened in U.S. about a month ago, where some of those Pakistani expats, they were holding some of those very high-level state representatives from U.S. and then kind of like targeting them that they are responsible for all those issues in Pakistan. But I see it a little bit differently. What I see is that U.S. has been an ally of Pakistan, and U.S. is the second country after Britain, who came out publicly to recognize Pakistan in 1947.
True.
So we should appreciate that.
Yes.
And then even in the last 2 decades, if we really look at it, every time Pakistan, were in crisis, U.S. was the first one to came out.
Yes,
Back in
right,
2005, if we look at it, when the earthquake happened, U.S. was the first one to came in.
True.
And I'm sure you guys all remember even Julia
Of
Roberts
course.
came in, and then she gave a lot of speeches and all that stuff. And then most recently in 2022, when Pakistan was going through a rough phase during the flood, I was actually the first one who brought the congressman here. And then we brought over $100 million worth of aid towards the flood victims. So we should not ignore these things. And then there
Yes.
are many other examples that I can relate where U.S. has done their part to help Pakistan. But before we really point fingers at U.S., I think we should really look at ourselves. What are we doing? What are we contributing towards Pakistan? It is easy to say and easy to point fingers, but before pointing fingers, we should really consider ourselves. We should really look at ourselves that, what is my contribution? Are we really passionate enough to bring those two countries together? Are we really passionate enough to bridge the gap between the two countries where we can really help both countries? If we continue to focus on Pakistan based on one political party or the other political party, I think this is completely unfair.
We will never prosper like that.
There's absolutely,
It has
and
to
I'm-
be
absolutely, you
same
said it
page.
right.
Yes.
But if we just keep that one thing in mind, Pakistan comes first. If
Right.
Pakistan exists, everything else exists. So this is my closing comment, that we should have one thing in mind. Pakistan comes first. Rest, all things come together.
So, lastly, before we wrap up this session, I would like to know, what message would you give to all the Pakistani expat community living in US?
First thing I like to tell them is be honest to yourself. And then when you talk about Pakistan, keep Pakistan comes first in their mind.
Right.
This is very, very simple and precise. If they continue to keep Pakistan comes first, trust me, there is no way that anyone can stop us
True.
helping Pakistan, bridging the gap between the two countries. And it is my wishful thinking that in my lifetime, I like to see a developed Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tanveer Ahmed, for shedding light on such an important and crucial topic when we talk about the relationship between Pakistan and US, especially the expat community living in US can do a lot in bridging the gap and bringing positive collaboration for mutual benefit of both the countries. And we are definitely going to stay tuned with you guys, giving you updates regarding this collaborative, informative sessions and conversations about the relationship between Pakistan and US. For that, stay tuned for another exclusive session of SAMAA podcast. Bye-bye.